All right.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck to both of you.
Thank you. So as we mentioned, this is Defunct. The reason we explain the category first is we go out of bounds right at the beginning of the game, like dirty cheaters. There we go.
Yep. You might have noticed that this is really similar to the any % run from last year. We start going by going out of bounds, but unlike that run, we're also tasked with collecting these 40 hexagonal sort of like coins or medallions.
Yep. I'm going to be honest. This is like Halo multiplayer. I just can't stop screen looking. I'm going to miss tricks and just be watching your screen. But yeah, as Celestic said, there's 40 collectibles. There's only 2 in this starting section. And if you liked the first out of bounds, well, you get another one. I'm going to bonk this wall. There we go. The movement here is more precise than it looks. We haven't explained the movement mechanics, and there aren't very many of them, but we'll jump into those in just a moment. There's just another out of bounds to get through.
There we go. So
looks like we both got it. It's a relief, to be quite honest.
All right. And in order to get back inbounds, you might have just noticed that I respawned. There are a bunch of checkpoints in this game, and the way that you respawn is by pressing R. But these checkpoints are activated by proximity, so when we get close enough to them, we'll just respawn if we need to get or sort of snap ourselves back into the loading or into the zones.
Right. There are additional points about checkpoints we'll cover. Just to give people an idea of what's happening here, you play as this robot with a broken engine, and you start in the mothership trying to go get the engine repaired. However, on the way there, you accidentally get thrown out with the garbage. And you're supposed to try to fight your way back up, but since we already know that that's going to be futile, we just kind of head down onto the planet. And this is where the run really starts to take shape. The first major mechanic of the run is called Gravitate, where you can hold a button. By the way, I'm playing on controller, and Celestix is playing on KBM, if anyone's curious. There's no inherent advantage to either. It's just more based on preference. But you can gravitate yourself back towards the ground. And that in itself can be useful just to gain control. But also, if you gravitate down a slope, you'll gain speed. And if you do go up a slope, you will lose speed. And we're about to come up to ravine skip. You might already be there. Want to help us out, Bob?
Yeah, sure. So on Celestic's screen here, you'll see on the left there's this giant ravine, and on the right this giant cliff. And Grimelios just went down this giant slope. Unfortunately, Celestix missed it, so you get to see how much slower it is to miss that. But your goal is to carry as much momentum as you can through the very narrow area, so that you can just sort of jump up and over the ravine and into the next checkpoint.
That trick is, it's not the most difficult trick that exists in the game as a whole, but I think it's hard to argue that it's not the most difficult trick in the run.
Most definitely one of the riskiest of anything.
Right. It can be very difficult to control your character. I think this speedrun is a little bit unique in that you spend kind of a large part of the game not pressing anything. Since you have such limited mobility on your own, you really have to use the environment to your advantage. Speaking of the environment, apart from just using Gravitate to try to gain speed on hills, there are these boost orbs. Every time you touch one, you get a boost of speed. That's probably pretty obvious just from watching what's happening, even if you've never seen this game before. Otherwise, we're going through a section now called it's called Over the Hills, I think is what it's called. It's an area. There's some hills in it. You'll also see these trampoline pads, which you saw briefly before, but you'll get to see a whole bunch of them in this section. There are some other mechanics we haven't talked about. This game is absolutely not a Metroidvania or anything, but we will get access to some additional new mechanics as the run progresses. I'll also just say, as a general note, since it doesn't really make sense to point out on a case-by-case basis, you'll see Celestix and I use some different routing options in different locations, and that's because there is a maximum speed limit in this game of 80 units. I don't know what the units are, but there's 80 of them apparently. And because you have that maximum speed, it can sometimes be difficult to know whether one route is objectively faster than another. It's more just based on, can you maintain your maximum speed as much as you possibly can?
One thing you'll also notice us doing a lot is we're going to be spamming the jump sort of ability of our jump and double jump abilities of the robots. The reason why is because there's no air friction in this game, but there's a ton of friction when you're touching the ground. And in a game where we want to go fast, we want to make sure we're not going to get slowed down by anything too crazy. The only exception to this is, and you're probably going to be seeing this on Grim's screen really closely, besides Gravitate, there's an ability called Magnetize. And what this ability does is that it allows us to basically stick onto metal surfaces. But in addition, it also lets us stay...
I think we both got that first try, by the way.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, so magnetize, what it allows us to do is stick onto metal surfaces, but also allows us to stay stuck on the current surface that we're riding on. And the reason why is because sometimes we don't want to lose all of our speed by going into the air. As Grim said earlier, we only get 80 units of speed, and that gets divided up in horizontal and vertical momentum. And for the most part, all these stages are all going to be horizontally based, which means that we have to try to maximize the horizontal velocity while making sure we have enough vertical velocity to get past all of the obstacles that are ahead of us.
Right, like any physics-based game, it's difficult to optimize, and you just have to try to be very careful that you maintain as much speed as you can while also maintaining control. So there will be a lot of sections where you'll see us magnetize onto the ground as a control mechanism, even though technically we are losing speed due to friction. It's still just so much better to maintain your speed. So coming into the section that's, well, I guess we'll be getting there very, very soon. There's some important skips in the forest. You've already seen kind of a small version of one where we got up to one of the collectibles by bonking, kind of taking a collision. But in this next section, and you've actually already seen them if you paid attention, there are these red orbs. The red orbs are power cells, where when the little robot touches a power cell, the power cell gets activated, and if you activate every power cell in a section, something happens. Ordinarily, it's a door that opens, and if you look at Celestic's screen right about now, he'll be doing something called the forest skip or the wood skip.
The idea is that there's this big yellow door in the back, but we're just going to jump right over it.
Nice.
It's actually interesting in this whole game with one exception, or one area of an exception. Oh man, I had trouble with it.
So Grim, you got this. All right, I'll cover for you. So in this area in particular, you're going to be noticing that, yeah, we do skip a lot of these red cells. You're actually going to be seeing a bigger version of this skip later on. I think about 2 or 3 stages ahead. But yeah, but that's the same for later. For now, we're going to be getting into the valley, and this stage is, quite frankly, one of my favorite.
It is. Valley is fun for a few reasons. The music's nice. It's, you know, kind of nice and vibrant, and most importantly, it is almost entirely downhill. So you can just gravitate all over the place. You'll still see us jumping, even though it's downhill. It's still usually faster. You're also going to start to see rails. We'll come back to rails, the grind rail type things. First, there's a collectible that has to be collected that Celestic's exiting right now. Looks like you picked it up just fine.
Now we're going to be a little bit careful about collecting that collectible, because if you miss that, then you pretty much have to restart the stage, because it's very hard for you to get back up there. As you notice, I just respawned at the lower level of the area, and getting back up top is near impossible.
You can do it, but it might be slower than restarting the level. It's just not even worth it. Moving right along, though, are there any mechanics we haven't talked about? We've talked about gravitate, we've talked about magnetize, the little boost orbs. Otherwise, I'd say we'll cover the more specific tricks per section as they come up, but as I said, this game is kind of interesting to play. You just try to orient yourself in the right direction, make sure that you're jumping to avoid friction with the ground, and otherwise you just continue. Then Celestics is going to be coming up on an area called Dawn, where you really get to see grind rails come into play. Celestics, I'll let you talk about grind rails for a moment.
All right, so grind rails are a little bit of a double-edged sword. What they let you do is they automatically set a flat speed to sort of the robot when you use them, but at the same time, there's a bit of a interesting mechanic, or sort of maybe a glitch with them. If you hit them straight on, as if your direction is parallel with where the grind rail is facing, then sometimes you can be actually sent backwards, which is really bad. So instead, what we want to do...
I got it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. But yeah, so that's the reason why you'll be seeing us try to hit the grind rails from an edge or to the side. Because we'll automatically get the speed boost from the grind rail itself, but we want to avoid trying to get into that situation where we get knocked backwards.
Next up, we need to talk about Enerjuice, which is the only other mechanic in this game. I mentioned early on that we can accelerate under our own power with the engine, but it is extremely limited, and to be honest, not very fun, because you just go super slowly, and this game is at its best when you can go as fast as possible. Enerjuice is a mechanic that lets you boost on your own power. Not enough to really maximize your speed, but what it's very, very useful for is to maintain maximum speed. So now that we have it, you'll be seeing this pattern pretty frequently. We've already been jumping and double jumping constantly to avoid friction with the ground, but now you'll see us using boost for just a moment to make sure that we cap out our maximum speed and then jump in the air. And
all right, got it. Okay.
Nice, dude. Do you want to explain what you just did?
Yeah, so this is the junkyard. That was sort of the junkyard skip. The idea is that the first checkpoint in this stage is a little unique in the sense that its logic for how you access it or sort of activate it is different from all other checkpoints
And
in the
I'm trying
game.
it right now as well. Got it as well, guys.
All right, nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that saves about 30 to 40 seconds, and that's one of the integral parts of this run. Not just for all collectibles, but also for any percent, because it also skips a cutscene that takes up some time as well. Now the code is we're not really sure exactly how this happens, but all we do know is that as soon as you enter, or as soon as you hit that one checkpoint before the skip, you just need to reset 3 or 4 times, and it'll just automatically happen.
The area that we're in now, by the way, is called Junkyard, and it's kind of unique as far as the areas go because most areas are relatively linear. Your goal is to progress from the start to the end. This area, however, is like a giant basin almost, and we're trying to open up a trapdoor in the middle. It is possible to break through the trapdoor using something called the Junkyard Skip, which you can do in any percent, but to be honest, the trick is ridiculously precise to the point where maybe you would save time in all collectibles if you got it first try, but it's not really worth it because we have to collect these collectibles by going around the whole area anyway, so it just is not worth it to try. And I mentioned earlier that there would be one section where we open up the game's intended door using the power cells. This is that area.
All right, so just one thing I want to ask of the couch. Did you see what happened there when I tried to respawn?
Yeah, that was, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, so if anybody can figure out how to replicate that, that could save about 15 seconds, and that would be a huge time save, especially for this category where the run is only 17 to 18 minutes, like for the world record.
Mm-hmm. So you've got to be on to the next section then, and I'll be getting there momentarily.
All right, so one thing you're going to be noticing me do right now is use the menu for the first time in this run, and the idea is that this cutscene takes a few seconds, but instead we're going to ignore it outright by restarting to get into the next stage and then respawning in order to skip the cutscene that occurs as we're exiting from that big pipe.
Yep. In this section here, you're going to very soon see a race that starts between yourself and 4 other robots. The results of the race don't matter at all for the run. It's more of just a fun little thing to do casually, I guess. In any percent, you not only can take first place, but you probably should get first place for speedrunners. In all collectibles, though, it's not possible to get first place while still getting all the collectibles you need. It's possible to get 3rd place, but it's hard. So, I mean, hopefully one of us will get 3rd place, but probably we'll get 4th place.
If I get 3rd place, I will donate money. That is not happening anymore because I just missed a collectible. It's okay. I'm still going to be donating money just because I said that.
Well, I don't know if we've mentioned this explicitly, but the hitboxes on collecting these collectibles is pretty generous in your favor. Like, you'll notice that for most of the collectibles, we don't actually collide with it. It does differ on a collectible by collectible basis, and so, if you were to learn this speedrun, part of that is learning which collectibles you have to be very careful that you hit it precisely, and which ones you can just kind of hit the general area and you'll get the job done. But in my opinion, this is where the one really starts to shine, and it's really emphasized because the music picks up as well. I think the developers of this game, their Swedish team, very supportive. The developers of this game did a great job of really making you feel fast, to do these tricks with the field of view of the camera, and it just feels really, really fast. You have every, and I hesitate to call them abilities, but every ability in the game, and you just get to rush through as fast as you possibly can. On my screen in a moment, I'm going to be trying, it's not exactly a skip, but it's just some interesting movement to get through a section. There's a collectible up here that I'm going to want to get, of course, and so I'm going to try to bounce off a bouncy pad, ramp off this ramp in order to keep my speed, grab a bit more boost in the air. This, by the way, is one of the more precise collectibles, so let's see if I can grab it. There it is, good.
Nice.
Yeah, the hitbox for that collectible is pretty precise. If you miss it, then you lose about 20 seconds trying to get it back again.
Yeah, the checkpoints in this game are, they're not always consistent in how far apart they are, so that's one you really don't want to miss. But with this, I'm coming into an area known as Oasis. There are, I don't know, there's some number of collectibles in this section, I think, too. The first one's behind a waterfall because there's always a secret behind the waterfall. On here, I intentionally take the speed loss due to friction on the ground because just for control reasons, otherwise you might lose more time. And I'm immediately going to try another trick called the Oasis Skip, which is similar to the wood skip. I'm going to try to hit this at a precise angle and hopefully make it all the way over the wall. That'll do it.
Extra point is good.
Done.
Good.
All right, my turn. Let's see what we got. All right, that's 2 for 2.
Perfect. Both
Nice.
of them. Good job.
Nice.
Good job,
Very
guys.
nice.
Okay, so remember I mentioned way back at the start of the run that our overall goal is to just get back to the ship, and there it is. So we're going to rush along this bridge as fast as our tiny little robot wheel can take us. I'll give you 3 guesses whether we're going to be able to catch it here.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes, that's the right answer. In opposite land.
Unless you're playing in 160cc mode, which
Yes.
actually doubles the speed of your robot.
Yeah, oh god, I hit a stop sign, and then the collisions in this game are kind of hilarious. Like, I can pass right through parked cars as if they're made of string cheese, but then I can't pass through a traffic cone. It's apparently made of, I don't know, adamantium or something.
Well, it did tell you to stop, Grim.
You're right. I can't really blame the game on that one. With this, we're moving into an area known as Rock Bottom. Rock Bottom is, in a word, claustrophobic, as opposed to the rest of this game, which is generally very open and expansive, and you just get to try to... Basically, the tech is to try to maintain your maximum speed as much as possible. This area, it is... I don't even know if you can get up to maximum speed. Maybe, but not for very long. So we have to try to just grab these tiny little slopes and gain any little bits of speed that we can along the way. It's also very, very easy to bonk into a wall or something and lose all your speed, and that is always pretty catastrophic. But in the next section coming up, we're going to do something in an unintended order as well, which
I can
take
explain
that
that.
one there, yeah.
So this area right here, you're supposed to, the developers intended for you to fall into this ditch, but but that's because of all of the friction with the ground. But if we ignore that, we can easily get to the other side. And this is a big time save. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds, and the reason why is because there's a checkpoint down there that we need to avoid hitting. Because if we get stuck down there, then you have to go off to a section off to the other side of the collectible, which would pretty much waste that 1.5 minutes.
Right, and when you drop down there, it's... Wait, you already said that. Ignore what I was about to say. We're moving on to the last section of the game. Well, 2 more sections of the game. This is kind of a return to the form of most of the rest of the game, where we're going to be able to maintain maximum speed as much as possible. One thing I don't know if we explicitly mentioned, when we go through these blue radioactive pools, they give us a speed boost and refill a whole bunch of energy, so that was probably pretty obvious, but just to make it explicit. Not too much left and not too many collectibles left. There's one other interesting thing you'll see here. I already mentioned that Cell and I take slightly different routes, but this is a good example of that. In this section coming up here, I tend to go on the left and Celestix goes on the right, and one isn't really faster than the other because you're just you're capped out at your maximum speed anyway. What's important is that you boost before you jump, that you try to hit as many of these boost orbs as possible, and then we're coming into... I keep like screen looking, but I'm trying to keep the
I know, we're like so
up-to-date.
close together, it's like crazy. All right. We're going through the Tunnel of Love, which is a do not touch the pillars or risk getting knocked out of the entire place.
Okay, made it.
Nicely done.
We're not done yet. We're not done yet. There's another collectible on the most finicky railing in the entire game. We're going to try to hit it at the beginning, because if we don't, it'll be disastrous. No!
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 It's okay. You got
No.
this.
No, if you could just drive off a cliff for like a minute, that would be very much appreciated. The choke is too real.
Don't worry, I'll do a backflip just for you.
Do backflips. Swag flip is always required. Ow. So Celestix is approaching the end. I think you have every collectible now, right?
Yes, all 40 of them. So time happens as soon as we hit the last grind rail at the mothership. And that was the goal of this game all along, is to get your robot back to his home.
So he'll call out time. It'll be very, very soon.
All right, so it'll be right about now time.
Congrats, dude. Okay, and I'll be approaching there very, very quickly as well. Bit of jumping, bit of boosting, same as before. It's always nice to maintain a little bit of boost if you can, and I didn't there, not so big a deal. So for me, it's, wait for it, time.
Good job to both of you.
Excellent race.
That was insanely close.
If it wasn't that last railing, that would have been, my God.
You were about a
Maybe-
second.
yeah,
you were about like a second apart.
Second or 2 seconds, man.
It wouldn't be defunct if he didn't lose it to that last railing.
No, it would not be. I definitely lost plenty of PBs to that.
Oh man, you have no idea.
Yeah, but this run is kind of short and sweet. If anyone's interested in running it, it's a relatively easy run to learn, relatively short. The developers are very supportive. It didn't take... I forgot to put on the GDQ skin again.
Oh, because it reset.
Because it reset.
Oh my goodness, because it reset. Oh, it's okay. We can show that flight right now. But yeah, so this game was made by Freshly Squeezed, also published by Sodesco. We want to give a shout out to them. Like, thank you guys so much.
Yes, they've
for
been
developing
very, very
this game.
supportive. And
Because-
it's a fun run to run, I guess. So, congrats to Cell, and thanks to Roos and Bob. It's kind of a short run that's very packed with commentary. It's kind of hard to divvy that up, but it's really nice to have the support, and especially during that early skip the ravine skip. Are you going to show off the skin?
Yeah, definitely going to show off the skin.
Okay.
It's this cool GDQ
This is the GDQ skin.
Yeah.
But I think that'll about do it for us then, kind of just a short and sweet run. There's mine.
Do we have the final times?
Nope. Yep.
1851 and 1916.
All right.
That's acceptable.
good.
It's
Pretty good.
acceptable. So Omnibus is next, I think, and that'll do it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.